Okay, let's start over again. Sabaho, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today is starting off on the wrong foot. Starting a live stream without realizing your mic was on is, yeah, it's a way to start the day. I see there's a few people in the comments. So just to kind of recap everything I said, welcome back, Sabaha, everybody, to episode 55 of Saturday Morning with Tech. Today is January 23rd, 2021. And of course, we're trying to basically recap some of the main things that have been going on. Uh, yeah. um, Okay, so if there's ever been a problem with the stream, it's me. It's definitely I'm starting off on the wrong thing. Sabaho, everybody's Mike West is in there, Joey B, everybody's in there. Scott, thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. For some reason, StreamYard showed me a few comments of some of the people that were in there. So I think it was Scott and Davin Davis that were in there, and it was weird. But like, I didn't realize that my audio wasn't on. I know my camera was on, but I guess I didn't check the levels before we started. But either way, we are back. Good morning. And thank you very much. Vince Nova, of course, Sabajo. Thank you very much. IR 1980 is in the comments. Hey man, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. I hope you guys had a good week. It's Saturday. It's the end of the week somewhat. We had a very nice, engaging stream with Juan Carlos on Thursday. We were talking obviously about the potential, well, I guess the potential for LG to could potentially maybe leaving the mobile space, could be moving into something else, could be morphing into whatever. And that was a very nice conversation. And Juan Carlos was also, as usual, the some LG chill guy, but in a way, he was actually a little bit more optimistic than I thought we were going to get into that conversation. Um, no, Joey. There are many things I can blame the system or the way the architect, the way the things work. My goal today is to try to fix what's going on with my internet. Um, Live streaming is a big part of what I do on a weekly basis. As you guys know, we've been live streaming now. We're up to 55 episodes now. And then, of course, we are up to episode 6 with Juan Carlos with the best of our week. So now minimum dual live streams a week on the channel. And if you guys haven't followed me yet on Twitch or not, TKBay8655, I'm actually starting to do live streaming or game live streaming on the main PC back there with Call of Duty. So I'm trying to bring up and ramp up some of my streaming experiences. And I think I saw somewhere here. Are you still using the Surface Duo? No, unfortunately, I do not have the Surface Duo anymore. It's the exchange that I had with Juan Carlos, which was recently when we did that exchange with the Note 20 Ultra and the Surface Duo, was for about a month, which is what we did that experiment. Although, hey, good morning. Josh is in the comments, man. What's up, man? Hey, man. Everybody say hi to Josh. Joshua Vergara, a very good friend of mine. And he and I did a show yesterday, which hopefully you guys will be able to check out over at the Pocket Now weekly. But yeah, no, the way the Surface Duo kind of worked with us, just for reference, I think Sam, see, Matt Tyler's in the comment as well. So Matt and I, a little bit of background story here. Matt and I have been trying to coordinate a timing of when we can play Warzone together for weeks. We got to play, I think, 2 games this week, but then he saw firsthand some of the technical problems I've been having. So that's one of my problems. But to answer the question regarding the Duo, Mawash is Sam. I think Sam usually jumps in every once in a while. Sam will be a great guy to actually ask. See if he jumps in the comments. You'll see him, and you'll be able to basically, if you have any questions regarding the Duo or any questions that maybe I'd be able to answer, you can throw them in there. We can go from there. But the short answer is my network connections here has been going crazy. I have fast downloads, fast uploads, but for some reason, Warzone was giving me errors. It keeps erroring out, saying I'm not connecting to the server. And then, Warzone drops me and just totally bonks and closes the app. And then Black Ops, for some reason, tells me I'm not connected. So I can't even play a game straight to be able to broadcast. And on top of that is whenever we're in StreamYard, like what we're using right now, the error messages of loading and buffering and so on keep coming up as if there is some type of a connection issue. So I decided to do it. What I decided to do is to try to troubleshoot it as we normally like to do. I'm totally, yeah. So just to kind of catch up on this thing seriously, this is a rare sighting, guys. because Josh and I always try to connect. We always try to work together, but to have him up and awake and actually joining at a roughly about this time in the morning is hard because Josh is always a night owl. He always has obviously a lot of things going on, so it's always fun to catch him later in the afternoon or in the evenings. And early mornings are generally, it's his usual chill time, hang out, and I'm glad that he's doing that with us. Fat Produce is in the chat. Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. El Josa as well. Everybody's jumping in, everybody's hanging out and having a really good time. But yeah, no, so I'm troubleshooting the situation. I've removed the Spectrum, Wi-Fi router entirely. I'm using my own. Speaking of which, actually, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this company. It's called Synology. They make a very nice an AC router that actually works very, very well. I've had the router for some time and installed it, and actually has a nice, almost looks like a Linux interface, kind of more of a GUI, a window type of experience of a GUI. You're even able to upload like your own logo and so on. So short answer, I've replaced the router. I'm using my own. I've restarted the modem, and yesterday with Josh, while we were doing our thing, which hopefully you guys will get a chance to hear soon on Pocket Now, there was no problems. There was like absolutely no problems. Not one hiccup, not one circle of anything. So my hope is that whatever I did worked, that replacing the router and restarting the modem fixed the concern is when it comes to the internet. I did a few tests on the main PC with Warzone and Black Ops, and both did not have any problems. So it's looking good, but we have to kind of see how it goes today. So that's the real test today. Today, we're doing this whole thing. This is live, obviously, by myself, and we'll have to see how things kind of goes. And please, yes, Joey B, always, always, always. Good morning, Greg. Hey, man. Don't forget to drop a like if you don't mind, and share, of course, as it always helps the channel, and of course, just spreads the love. That's the best way to look at it. This week marked a few things. We had a couple of announcements that were going out. mediaTek came out with the brand new Dimensity 1100 and 1200. So they're new higher, I would say they're higher end model chipsets. Now, no device currently carries that in the market, but at least we know that that's the plan. That's the move forward. They're moving on beyond what we saw with the 800 and the 1000, which is what are those two devices that I had on the thumbnail here for you guys in this video. I haven't had much work with Dimensity chipsets. I've seen them and we've covered them in the past. We've talked about them, but I haven't had that many devices come into the studio with those chipsets. So the Redmi Note 9T, this is obviously a very nice, very good budget device that is priced very, very well. Now, this one's featuring the Dimensity 800. And then, of course, the video that I just posted, I think maybe a couple of days ago, is the Reno 5 Pro 5G. And this one is featuring the Dimensity 1000 Plus. I would say the previous high-end versions of what Redmi and what mediaTek was releasing as a chipset. I'm more Matt jumped in and he's going back to work, and we need to try Warzone again later on. I think we said we're probably going to try maybe later tomorrow. It's always an interesting dilemma when YouTube doesn't send out notifications correctly, which is because it's a live show, so the engagement is always 100% when you're in the show. But I'm hoping that at some point we'll get back to this. We've done enough live streams that I would hope the algorithm knows to expect a live stream every Saturday morning. But it's growing pains. We'll have to see how it goes. But yeah. Matt and I will have to figure something out. But the short way of what I was trying to kind of allude to is the surprising performance of what we get with the MediaTek processors. And I say this because at least in the US, MediaTek has not had a massive presence when it comes to an SoC in a flagship or a mid-range type of a device. Now, I realize both the Reno and the Redmi Note 9T are not really intended for the US market, so that's also the other factor. And I think for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, the Velvet was the only MediaTek MediaTek supported device in a retail store as basically being an LG device, or even just generally people being able to try it out. Now, the MediaTek, the 800 Dimensity is more of a budget line processor, and it really performed in that sense. The Redmi Note 9T wasn't slow. It wasn't like the super snappiest device, but it performed quite well, and it gave me what I was expecting for the price point that it was trying to come in. The 1000 Plus, on the other hand, was a much more of an upgrade than I thought it was going to be. It was a weird way. When I started with the 800 and then jumping into the 1000, I was expecting more of maybe a slight boost in performance. but some of the optimizations done by ColorOS 11.1, which is also the updated version that we saw on the Redmi Note 90, on the Reno 5 Pro. Chemi's in the comment. Good morning. Sorry about that. The the performance actually was quite comparable to what you would expect from an 855 Plus, almost basically what we got for performance from like the OnePlus 7T, and then of course again what you generally got in 2019. Now, is that good enough? Is that bad? Is that something that we should be concerned about? We ended up having to look at what we're getting and where we are. The 855 is a few years old as a processor when we look at Qualcomm chipset. This obviously is not a Qualcomm chipset. There's other things that we need to keep in mind. The architecture is not the same. It's a 7 nanometer chipset. I think it was 7 nanometers chipset, which is comparable, but the performance isn't the same. The cameras on this, although I felt like the main shooter was the star, the Reno 5 Pro, I felt like some of the other cameras in the back could have been maybe replaced, maybe with a decent, maybe like a one main primary that's good and a decent secondary. I feel like the wide angle and the two additional one, the macro and the the mono and the micro, were a nice addition, but not necessarily needed. So those are the things that you start noticing. But when it came to just general performance, the 90 hertz refresh rate, the fast charging that we have in there, the large display scrolling, using the UI, loading and going through different applications, the 1000 Plus handled itself quite well. And honestly, if you were not being told that this was a Dimensity, you probably wouldn't have noticed it. I feel like those are the things that we want to start seeing in the market, where we have competition in the realm of what you're able to use without having to worry about, is it a Dimensity? Is it a Qualcomm? And of course, what we see now with the 1100 and the 1200 is that they're moving forward. They're moving up and then improving on the architecture. That was one of the other things that I was very excited about, is the fact that they are improving the architecture on the chipset, and they're also trying to push in more features for that budget-friendly experience, more for less. I think like what mediaTek's trying to go for. Qualcomm, for the most part, has been hitting it out of the park. Beginning of the week, we also saw the announcement. They announced the brand new, basically, I think it was called the Qualcomm 870, the brand new chipset. And let me see here real quick. I think I might have missed a couple comments here. Potatoes and herb, well, absolutely. There was a lot of copying, a lot of page, like looking over shoulder and reading somebody else's homework conversation going on in there. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, no, the SoC. So here, IR 1980 says SoCs have gotten to the point now where really we have had to make we have had to make a bad design for it to flop. You can't really go wrong with any kind of SoC that's currently on the market. Absolutely. And I think that's the benefit here. It's the fact that we want to be able to get to that level where the SoC isn't as much of a conversation driver saying, well, I prefer, mediaTek over Qualcomm, or I prefer Qualcomm over, like Kirin high silicon chips from Huawei with the Kirin chipset. Speaking of which was also another thing. So kind of to circle back, I wanted to kind of close out the comment with the Qualcomm. Qualcomm's been hitting it out of the park for some time now, right? I mean, for the last couple of years, and we haven't seen a lot of other comparisons, and we haven't really seen that much put into the Qualcomm versus Exynos processors in 2021 yet, because they're starting to come out, right? S21 line is the first Exynos 2100 line of devices from Samsung, and currently it's in the Middle East. It's outside of the US for me. So for me to be able to get one, I would have to not only buy it unlocked and have it shipped. It takes a process, and there's a time for that. I'm hoping to be able to do some type of comparison between, at the very least, maybe an S21 Exynos and an S21 Qualcomm, because at least that's a good base value to see. But what the 870 coming out this week was actually a nice little surprise addition, I would probably say. Because if you look at the 870 and you look at the 865 Plus, and then you look at the 888, those are three chipsets, obviously, two of them in 2021, and the 865 and the 865 Plus are in 2020. The 870 is really a successor and more of a slightly modified version of the 865 Plus, where the 865 Plus is, again, similar but slightly more modified version of the 865. So more of a step count up. So what we see with the 870 is literally almost 95%, maybe 98% of the same specifications as we get with the 865 Plus. But then we get a slightly higher clock speed, which enables us to actually have a slightly better performance, also enabling Qualcomm to give us that rebranding. And of course, putting it as a SoC of 2021 breed as opposed to an SoC of 2020. No big difference in the sense of how the modem implementation here. We're still talking about an integrated, a separate modem when it comes to 5G, where the 888 truly becomes 5 nanometer processing, architecture with integrated 5G modem, triple ISP. All of those things are still valid with the 888, and that's what the flagships are going to be. So that was a big surprise for me. And then we see MediaTek coming in with the 1100 and the 1200, which is, again, a big thing. But then not only that, Honor also finally had their first, I would say, launch event of a device that was outside of being partners or basically a sub-brand of Huawei. And they featured a new chipset, which is, surprise, surprise, the 1000 plus chipset that we have here with the Reno 5 Pro. So that to me was actually very, very, very nice. It was a very, very, and I'll get back to that comment. I'm sorry. I'm reading them. Mark Sadeh is saying, hi, Tariq. Hey, man. How you doing? Donald Lazino. Well, let me just do real quick, finish up with this one. So the short conversation that kind of went through there is, for me, first and foremost, the architecture of what Honor was prior to this announcement was a sub-brand. So for the most part, Honor always relied on Huawei's innovations and Huawei's devices to be able to get inputs into what they're doing. What we're seeing now is obviously a delineation. They're separating their PR team for the most part. I think for me, at least, my contact is still the same person. But the short conversation, though, is that they're starting to shift away and they're starting to have their own brand identity. So hopefully we'll start seeing more optimizations. Hopefully we'll start seeing the return of Google Play services to Honor devices. Now, I'm not sure about the previous library of devices. That's a conversation that has to be held, because I don't know if that the current situation that's going on with Huawei impacts them, because technically those are they're running Huawei chipsets. So that's the other thing. There was an announcement of the View40, but no View40 Pro. So we'll also have to see what happens with the Pro side. So that was primarily what I wanted to kind of touch. There was a lot of processor conversations this week between MediaTek, between Qualcomm, and of course devices being announced. And I'm really excited to see what devices start supporting the 1100 and the 1200 in the near future, because those are the things we want to see. We want to see what companies are going to start to invest in that. Obviously, Reno and Oppo are going head in. Honor's going in with it right now. We already know those with the 1000 plus chipset. So we'll have to see if that continues. I think I may have missed a few comments here. Let me double check. Okay. Okay. So right there. Yeah. So Chemi is something with us is saying, TK, what do you think about LG's getting out of the phone market? I will get an LG Wing 5G just happening just now because this is happening. So here's the thing. I don't really think they're going to be leaving the entire market. I don't really think LG would go in at CES and announce, obviously, not necessarily announce, but like teased us with a rollable LG Explorer program device, which is what they started with the whole Wing. Now, that part for me is a big factor, because that tells me, obviously, is that there is intention for them to wow the audience, to try to still innovate in that realm. So for them to basically restructure, I think more than likely it's a maybe downsizing and more optimizing of the existing team. That's probably more so what's going to happen, if that's going to happen this year. To Juan Carlos's comment, what I feel like is a very, very on the point conversation kind of. This is just basically business, general business conversation, right? I mean, any company that, if they've seen it for a certain amount of years, certain amount of quarters where their performances haven't been onto what they were expecting, they have to have this conversation. They have to prepare for it. They have to see what's going on. LG is a very big company when it comes to other divisions that they perform in, and mobile is only one part of it. So the concern essentially is that, as a company, if you're looking at it, do you still put in that big of a team on a product or on a division that may not be performing as well? So that's the concern that's going on. The rumors about potentially selling off part of their production to another ODM based out of Vietnam, that's, if anything else, as long as they're able to continue the conversation, what LG has to do, the intellectual performances and rights of what LG Mobile was, there's really not going to be that much of a difference for us realistically, as long as LG doesn't just up and just exit the entire system. Okay, we're not talking about Palm. We're not talking about BlackBerry, where BlackBerry ended up being taken over by another ODM, carried on for a certain amount of time and then it entirely just basically turned off. So those are the things we have to keep in mind. I think LG realistically is too big for the sense to be able to just say, look, we're just going to take our hands out of this, because at the end of the day, they have a lot of other systems that could potentially carry them if they need any concerns there. So I don't really think they're going to be going anywhere. I think it's more of a restructuring. Let me see what else we have here. Potatoes Skin. Why is MediaTek SoC has more 5G bands than from Qualcomm or Exynos? Is that due to costs? So it's more of the compatibility, right? So they're coming in with we need to be compatible with more devices or more bands, and their goal obviously is to become more synonymous with, if it'll work anywhere kind of a situation. The 888 is really answering that statement by fixing the concern. So 888 has an all band compatibility when it comes down to millimeter wave, 5G, sub 6. All of those technologies are all present in the 888 with the integrated modem. And I think Qualcomm has, it took them about a year of going through with the 5G modem to be able to get that in there, where MediaTek is trying to be international. We may not realize that MediaTek is present in a lot of devices that we generally maybe not realize what the processor is in there. I'll say this because like tablets from Amazon in the US, 90% of them are MediaTek processors. The Amazon Assistant devices, whatever device that uses smart chipset, even smart TVs and so on, they're using MediaTek processors. I think OnePlus last year when they made their OnePlus TV, they were actually using a MediaTek processor in their TV to power that entire system. So as a company, MediaTek has been producing content, producing hardware to fit into so many other areas that they really haven't been acknowledged for that. When we see them in mobile devices, we had I would say I'm not trying to downplay it, but basically I think a lot of us had a pre-existing understanding of what MediaTek could do, and we assumed that it was always the underperformer. And they're proving us now that they're able to push and they're able to get better. 2019 was the announcement. 2020 was the proof. Now we're in 2021. We're seeing more improvements. They're moving forward. Obviously, it's working. So that's the goal. The goal is for us to see and have better competition. I think having MediaTek processors, having Qualcomm processors, and of course having other processors like the high silicon processors, or even seeing Exynos processors, it's always good for us as consumers, and that's the main thing. We want to be able to have the performance that we want, and of course, not have to necessarily pay too much for it. Qualcomm is great, but again, typically those are going to be the high-end flagships with the 888 and so on. So here, okay, I think I missed a couple of comments here. Tom Zach, man, welcome, man. I love the beard, dude. Love the beard. Let me double check it. Davin, okay, so I think okay, here, Davin David's jumping in. I'm hopeful that Honor will be able to use a larger pool of chip choices, MediaTek, Qualcomm, Exynos, to help build out their brands. And I think that's what's probably going to happen. We're going to see more presence from them in that format. And I think to kick it off with MediaTek, especially with the Dimensity 1000 Plus, I think that's a very good implementation. I'm interested to see how they transfer over their understanding of the because they brought over GPU Turbo X. So that I always understood or always assumed that was part of Huawei's architecture. So the GPU Turbo. So how were they able to bring that over with Magic UI 4.0, which again, I think some people commented like, why is it still based on Android 10? Well, the reality is they haven't been able to upgrade to Android 11 because of the current situation. So now I think Magic UI should be able to move forward. And now that the consoles can reach 120 frames per second, are there any reasons for getting a budget gaming PC? It depends on what you're trying to do. So I think Tom's asking a great question, especially when we talk about gaming performance and consoles and so on. But wait, hold on a second. Wait, what is that? I'm seeing somebody's elbow over here. I don't know what it is. Let me see. Who is this? Dude?
Wait, this is not the right show.
What are you doing here, man?
I'm in the wrong place. I didn't even mean to be here. This is just not right.
Wait, hold on. Wait, one more second. What are Sam? Is that you? I don't know. It showed me a picture of Sam, but then
could be.
Wicked. What?
Sam, I think we're in the wrong place. This is not the right show.
I took a left
I'm
in
in the wrong
Albuquerque. I
place.
ended up in this show. What is going on, guys?
Don't know what happened.
I thought you had to go back to work, Matt. What the? Are you playing games with me, you guys? How are you?
We're good, man.
Good.
Sam and Matt from across the podcast dropping in as a little bit of a surprise for everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. How I love the hat. Well, man, now I got to wear my hat. Sam, see, this is one of those things where I wish I could do this and then hand it over to Sam and be like, he got it. But how are you guys doing? How's your day? Do you guys doing okay? Is it raining for you guys, I guess, or no? Because we're getting rain here.
UK. It's always raining there.
It's a bit of everything, to be fair. It's raining and snowing at the same time. So
I love it, and I love how Greg caught on me. I'm really bad at acting. It's like, okay, whatever, TK. I'm bad at acting, man. I try. This is my second time. Last week with Juan, I figured this week I'll be great. We can play it off really nicely. But actually, before we get into introductions and talking about everybody, I wanted to push it out because this actually related directly to to Matt a little bit more. Tom was asking a question about here. Now that consoles are reaching 120 frames per second for performance and gaming, do you think there's a need for budget gaming PCs anymore? Being that you use a PS5 and I use a PC when we play together, what are your thoughts on gaming PCs? Would you consider that over a PlayStation 5? And the same for you, Sam. Would you play games on a mobile console, on a console, or on a PC?
For me personally, the PS5 is more than powerful enough.
Oh,
but yes, I can see the definite need for high-end gaming PCs. Budget PCs, again, with the PS5 and the Xbox One, it's a bit, you get that kind of performance, but for a lot cheaper than you'd pay for a budget PC.
Which is the biggest factor. Yeah, no, it comes down to enjoying your content and being able to play it, like as Tom was saying, with 120 frames per second. But Sam, what is your? I always forget. I think are you on Xbox or on PlayStation?
I have actually both. Actually, I have all three. So I have an Xbox and a PS4 and a gaming. I just bought an Omen, the 15, the brand new Omen. So and really I bought that just because I play a couple of games on PC, but I'm definitely a console player. We talked about it in the show a couple of weeks ago where it was like I was exposed to having a Nintendo and a Sega Genesis back in the day. I didn't have access to a computer, so it's basically, for what I spent for the PS4, I bought it for $150 from a person at work. So versus the $1,400 Omen that I bought. So as far as price performance, and I also like too with consoles is you don't have to worry about specs. If I buy a PS4 game and throw it in the deck, it's going to work. I don't have to worry, does my memory card, do I have enough RAM? Do I have recommended settings? It's like all this. You don't have to worry about upgrading.
All the headaches I'm having to go through right now because I'm having to troubleshoot my PC side. Matt was laughing at me. I couldn't play a game. He finished the match. We were at the end, like literally 2 seconds to the end of the match. I froze and dropped out of it, and he finished second.
Right.
TK didn't get any of the points or bonuses for that.
Oh, God.
Because the system saw that I froze and I jumped literally 2 seconds before the show, before the game was over. He jumped in, got the points, and he placed second by himself.
Well, it wasn't by myself. We were second together until you dropped out at the end.
I know. But I'm saying is, like, when I came back in, I didn't get any of the improvements. That's what I'm trying to say. No.
So that's for me. That's what really when it comes to price performance, but also just compatibility. If you buy a PS4 game or a PS5 title, it's going to run no matter what you have. You can, you put the disc in and it works, and it's a lot. There's a lot to be said about console gaming as far as just ease of use. It's the Apple of the gaming world, right? It just works, right? Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
I love how IR 1980 jumped in with the Cyberpunk because I was about to say, unless you're playing Cyberpunk on a console, right, that's a different story. You gotta experience with Stadia because he's enjoying it. Stadia I think it's proven itself to be the most stable when it comes to that. But now that we've covered that a little bit, I know most of the people in the chat know you guys. They know who you are. They obviously follow you guys. They check you guys out on Sundays with the Across the Podcast. But if you don't mind doing a little bit of an introduction of who is Matt Tyler, this guy with some really, really nice hat on top of his head. And then, of course, who is this Sam guy, this Wicked Sam guy that apparently remembers the Genesis?
No,
I'm rocking again today.
The PlayStation guys. Well, let's go ahead and start off with Matt, man. Let us know who you are and give us a little bit of an introduction to, the man, the myth, the guy in the in the comments, and the guy that runs the show with the dude from the across the pond.
I'm literally just a dude. Like, there's not much to say about me. I am who I am.
I am who I am.
I am who I am. Who I come across as live and on the internet. That's me.
He's the man behind
funny.
the Matt Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always
do whatever I can for the kids. That's it. That's me.
I love it. Great at Warzone, by the way. Great partner to play Warzone with, by the way.
Love gaming.
If you're able to, I was going to say, if you're able to get the timing set up correctly. Sam,
definitely timing is an issue.
Wicked Sam, our buddy, our Sam from Boston, our Bostonian Sam.
This is actually I was in on some trips in Boston, so I ran into the Wicked Pissa. So a wicked piss is like aloha. It depending on how you say it. So okay. I'm not from Boston. I just was there on.
No, I only pointed to Boston for the shirt. So
right, and so it was funny because so it's like it works like this. It's like it's like, hey, you, that guy's a wicked pissa. So it means like good, right? Like this guy, he's a wicked pissa, right? So depending on how you say
not
it,
what it means,
context.
but no, okay,
right? Well, because
like
I know
totally depends on how you meet it.
Well, that second word means something completely different here.
I was privy to that conversation that Matt had with us on Twitter, and I'm not even going to mention that conversation exactly what it is. But if you guys follow Matt or Sam, you probably saw the conversation Matt had with another YouTuber online, because of that whole words translating across different cultures and sometimes idioms. But but you're not actually from Boston. Where are you guys? I mean, so I know obviously Matt is in the UK, and Sam,
I'm actually born and raised and still currently live in St. Louis.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep.
So you guys, if you guys don't recognize, we got UK on the left, and you got West Coast and then East Coast. So we covered not only across the pond, but as well as across the states. With that, you guys have a great show on Sundays, Across the Pondcast. I love that show. And I hear you guys are going to have some really interesting guests coming on a little bit. So how did that show come about? What made Across the Pondcast happen?
One Carlos Bagnell. That's literally it. If it wasn't for him,
some LG chill guy caused this to happen.
Yeah, that's it. But I do like Josh's comment. It's pretty accurate. Across the podcast, the story of a dysfunctional long-distance bromance.
Yeah.
The strong words of Joshua Vergara.
So Juan basically was the input. So I decided one time just to start doing a stream. Just decided to do it on my own, and it was called the Sunday Stuff and Things, because I was just getting on for 2 hours and talking about just whatever was on my mind. And I did a couple of those shows, and Matt was like, and I said, anybody who wants to be in the stream can come on and we'll just talk. So that's how it started. Matt came on, and it was just like, we got done with the show. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Let's just do this like all the time. And Matt's like, okay, cool. That sounds great. So we still ran the Sunday Stuff and Things for about 4 or 5 more episodes. And I thought we got to change the name, because it's Sunday Stuff and Things is not exactly a great name for anything really, much less a show. And so we put it up to the community about picking the name. And I think it was Aditya. I think a couple of people came up with it, but I think Aditya was the one that came up with Across the Pondcast.
He was
the play. Yeah,
Speaking of Aditya, thank you very, very much.
Wow.
The timing could not have been perfect. And he knew you were going to mention his name right at that second right there.
Absolutely.
And as usual, always Aditya jumping in. Good morning, man. But yeah.
And then it just turned into like really just a 2-man interview format, right? And basically kind of having guests on. And really what we try to do is, and we've had Joshua Vergara on a couple times. All the guests we've had on are fantastic.
Oh, dude, that last one, Josh and E said that one time. That was on fire. That was actually really nice.
Well, and the reason that was definitely fun.
So our approach is more like, if I ran into TK, like if we were out and about and I saw TK in a coffee shop and I saw him, like, holy cow, you're TK Bay. I know you. Let's talk about whatever, right? So we try to approach it from, I can find out what TK knows about phones and cameras. I can watch all of his videos and I can get that. But it's like, I want to know more about why TK does what he does, about his family, about his interests. Does he like sports? Does, the things you would talk about as a regular conversational thing, to get to know the people behind all this community of tech. Is Joshua Vergara famous enough where if he goes outside, does somebody recognize him? Like, has he been at a grocery store? Go, wait a minute, I know you. You're on YouTube. I mean, has that ever happened? And is that what shows that you've now achieved success, right? It's like if somebody recognizes
celebrity status,
right? You're now a baller, right? So that we try to approach it more and fill that niche about the people in the show, learning more about the humanity and the person and the personalities behind their favorite tech people, and talk to them. And also, it's self-serving. We get to talk to like awesome people, and like we've never had exposure to. I mean, it's incredible. It's always a lot of fun. So we try to keep it light, and it's definitely for adult listening. So if you're listening to it,
I was about to say, it's definitely free form. Understand that everything, all the conversations are in candor. They're having fun. They're kicking it, but it definitely, more than what normally gets on the channel here. So we're more PG, I would say, PG-13 at most. But yeah, definitely, I appreciate it. And speaking of gaming system and so on, so I played the Sega Genesis. It wasn't my first. Nintendo was my first gaming system. Then I moved on to the Nintendo 64, the Sega Genesis. But I still had a PC at the time. That was when I started to build PCs for like the 486 DLC. And I used PC, but it wasn't for gaming. It was mostly for internet connection. If you remember the old modem, the 14.4
dial-up, good old dial-up.
Dial-up.
Oh, man. All the baud. Like, what kind of baud modem you have? Yeah, that was old school. Right.
Yeah, no, in bulletin boards and BBS, it was just the presence back then. It was so different, but it was exciting. It was cool. It was fun. There were some games. There were some on boards and so on you could talk to. But then obviously we evolved. We are now at the PlayStation level, PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. To kind of circle back from that beginning question that we started, I like to play on both systems. I'm more comfortable with a keyboard and mouse. I feel that for me is much more of a comfortable system because of the ergonomics of what it offers me, as opposed to being very close. I have a lot more selection into customizing. And if I want to be able to build macros or anything like that to optimize my gaming, I feel like that's what I like. And I've actually just surprisingly, I've also brought those over to the Xbox and to the PlayStation by using GameSir accessories. There are ways for you to game on an Xbox if you guys are thinking about it. But I've been having so many problems with the PC. I'm tempted to just pick up Warzone or just get the Warzone over on my Xbox, and then when we just play over there, because I want to get gaming sessions to just happen regularly without having any problems. So hopefully Matt and I can prove it, or maybe we can actually play together. You and I, all three of us used to play as well as, what is it called? Fat Brutus. We used to get in the match together. Well,
I don't say I would play.
That was the guy.
I would run around and I'd be like, yeah, let's just go, man. I don't care about cover. Just run out there and just get blasted in the face. So I was definitely more bait and the target. So I wouldn't call it playing.
More the liability. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's fine.
But it makes it for a fun game. It actually does make it fun because we get a chance. And Josh was, of course, saying it. Thank you very much to Aditya. Aditya is very, very active with us this morning on the chat. But I wanted to actually also talk to you guys a little bit about your tech, what you like to use. I think we had a question before you guys were joining. I don't know if Sam, you were in the chat. Somebody was asking about the Duo, the Surface Duo, and how do they like it? So how has that been for you using it? Because you're the longest user that I've known, other than obviously Josh, Juan Carlos, that has it. How is that being a daily driver device type of? How has it been? Maybe that's a better way.
I would say it's kind of a mixed bag. So there are things I really like about it, and there are things that still really frustrate me about the device. So it's a fun device. I like it, but it's clearly a niche device, and it's not for everyone. As a matter of fact, I would say it's for very, very specific kinds of people. It's interesting to use, but I still have some the software issues are better, but still, I mean, there's still some UI tearing. There's still some issues with having to reboot it, and then, and it connects. It's been interesting. I've enjoyed it, and I'll tell you this much: I can't put it down. like I'll switch back to like right now I'm on my Mate 30 just because the camera experience on the Duo is not very good, and I just didn't grab it today, so I had my Mate 30. But like later on today when I get home, I'll go into my drawer and I'll pull up my Duo and I'll throw my SD card in it, or my SIM card in it, and that's it. It just works. I can't go a day without using it. I start to miss the real estate, the dual screens, the capability of like looking at Twitter. Like I was shopping some stuff. I can shop different prices. I can switch between. Matt will ping me, and I can go right to a Telegram message. I don't have to quick switch.
Telegram.
But yeah. But then on top of it,
no WhatsApp.
But then never WhatsApp.
Almost like 90% of my friends I've seen every single one of them like pop up on my Telegram like join. I'm like, whoa, that was an Exodus. Like no. So yes, Telegram is always fun. Well, and Discord for me, I love the dual panel, and I think Juan mentioned that one a while back when we were talking about the Duo versus the Fold concept kind of thing. I feel like the Fold and the Duo serve. I mean, they're both obviously they give a different experience, but I feel like the Duo has the right fold type. The best way to say it is it's folding a desktop on its own as opposed to folding a desktop the other format. I think for me to use the Duo in the way you use, the Fold, the way you use your Duo, every time I have to unfold it and turn it to get the same experience, where you just have to open and you're ready to go. So there's a lot to be said about the form factor. And speaking of which, Matt, should we even ask? I mean,
who knows today? It won't be that tomorrow. I know whatever it is, it won't be the way that it's next week.
No. I want to say this because he's been known on record to really be a big fan of obviously ROG phones. He's also been a big fan of the FX2 phones and stuff like that. So I'm always wondering, what is Matt into this this week as far as tech? What would you say is your favorite tech?
My favorite tech so far is my PlayStation 5. That is, surprisingly enough, that is my baby. That is my favorite piece of tech. Phone wise, it's always going to be the gaming phones, ROGs, especially the ROGs. But
we saw some leaks on the possibly next generation ROG with an actual display on the back now. Like,
I don't.
RGB.
I'm not saying I'm going to nerd out, but
I was nerding out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna skip the ROG Phone 3 and wait for this one because I want to get the display. So
yeah, I would, because the ROG 3 and the ROG 2 are very, very similar.
With the
same screen, same speakers, same battery, apart from not having the headphone jack.
I was gonna say,
pretty much the same phone. Whereas the ROG 4 looks like it's going a different direction,
which I'm totally for, and I really hope that we get to see more cool things like that. That's the thing. That's the thing I like about the fact of what we see here. And we talked about it a little bit before you guys joined us. We talked a little bit about the whole LG possibly exiting the realm of mobile space and so on. Have you guys been following up with that? Do you have any thoughts?
I've seen it, but for me, it doesn't really affect us. We haven't had LG since not the big flagships. We've had a couple of the Ks here and there, but we haven't had LG in the UK since the G7.
Oh wow, that's a few generations.
And we got V50 at the minute on EE, like specifically on EE. That's it. Right. But that's not even the V60. That's the V50. So we don't really get exposure to LG or dual screen phones. I was any kind.
I think you mentioned the dual. Well, in a different time, and I think when I was on your show, we talked about that. But I thought you mentioned also that the Wing may be coming. Is that true or no?
Well, that's what we heard, but so far nothing.
No Wing?
But then the Duo is supposed to be coming to the UK as well, but so far nothing. So I don't know.
I'm smiling because it's a lot of different conversations there. But
I think it was to do with Brexit. A lot of the marketing down to Brexit, everyone was just waiting to see what happened.
Well, now that we're beyond Brexit at this point,
now we're done. Hopefully, we can get some more.
Things can try to regulate again.
Asus, the ROG 3 never came to the UK, so
it's an uncertainty. I think if anything, it's just the uncertainty of the market. But I know Sam has been using more LG devices, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've had the G8, the G8X. It's a shame. I've had the V30 and the V35 and those. It's really kind of for anything. It's just I like LG. I mean, say what you will about the software experience. Say what you will about
I love LG phones.
It's to me, it's just another. It reminds me of HTC, right? It's another one of my favorite OEMs falling out the wayside, right? And it's like, it's just this furthering of a Samsung Apple duality, right? Where that's pretty much what's going to happen. I mean, speaking of ROG phone or OG phone, you got the Zen phones. Asus makes solid devices, man. They are that. I mean, seriously, the Zenfone 6 and now the Zenfone 7. That's a really good phone. Xiaomi is now.
Yeah,
my favorites are Asus and Oppo.
Yeah.
Last year and what we're seeing, what's going to be coming this year, Asus and Oppo are my two to watch. The Oppo Find X3 Pro looks very interesting compared to last year.
Some of the leaks that we're seeing right now coming up, they're the next ones to actually hear from, because we saw the 888 on the Xiaomi 11 Mi 11. That was hopefully we'll see more information on that. It's not global yet, but Samsung technically won the first 888 chip device in the US, since technically they're going to be available as of, I think that the end of next
29th?
week.
I think it's the 29th, I believe.
Yeah. So it's end of January roughly. That's the typical thing. I'm excited to see what Xiaomi has to bring, mostly because of the fact that they generally come in at a very reasonable not mid-range price, but it's like you're getting the best that they're offering, but you're getting it at a good price. That's really where Xiaomi is known for. Where you get Oppo coming in also with the Reno line that are literally trying to hit above. Like the Reno really, like, it looks and it performs at a much higher, it's basically more of the performance that you didn't expect out of this phone. You think of it mediaTek, some people may already kind of forget about it, but no, Dimensity 1000, and especially the 1000 plus, clocks in performance-wise on a benchmark close to what the 855 plus was performing at, which is, again, still very nice. At 7T or 7 Pro is more than capable of handling your daily activities in 2021. So for me, those are the things I'm really happy with those. But it's what we see now is at least the change that's coming up with LG is the concern of having less competition in the field. That's maybe the other factor. In the US, they finally came back for us in the retail stores, which was a big thing for us. About a couple of years ago, they were removed. So I also remember, actually, if I'm not mistaken, you guys had a nice experience with an LG device that was, you guys were trying to swap between each other, and that never did it ever make it?
Yes, it took I think it was 2 months.
3.5.
Yeah, 3.5. So he got So I sent him the G8X, and he got to use it. But the problem is it was carrier locked to AT&T, so I don't think he could use a SIM in it. And we tried to unlock it, and it didn't work. And then he was supposed to get an update that was supposed to be pushed from LG UK. It was just it was a hot mess, but he actually got the chance to use the hardware. And I think Matt was like, wow, how good would this sell in the UK if this was available? Right. I think a lot of people in the UK would have taken a chance. It's just a darn shame that it just wasn't available in the UK. But
I was hoping for the Velvet as well, but we didn't get the Velvet either. So but it is one of them things. We heard a few years, I can't remember, it was quite a few years ago, that Sony were going to leave the mobile market, and it never happened. So, but I'd take it with a grain of salt until we actually do.
We'll have to. My hope is that so let's just say this: if they do want to focus and bring down the core team of LG Mobile to be more specifically focused on, let's say, the mid range to high end, like Velvet or higher, what Juan and I were talking about a couple of days ago. I feel like that hopefully that their focus also will be to include them into other markets, bring back LG into more markets that they were known for, and especially the innovation. They love the dual screen. 4 different devices now support dual screens between the V50, the G8X that you had, Sam, as well as the V60 and the Velvet. But the reality is, we need to see more inclusion. The best way to say it. Saw a comment here real quick from Davin, but I think would be good conversation also. I don't know if you guys saw this rumor. There was some conversation talking about the fact that, so here at TK, what do you guys think about the OnePlus and Oppo much closer relationship with merging resources? So I don't know if you guys heard about that yet or not. Thank you for the question, Davin. It seems like there was a report saying that basically from a public relations, I forgot what it was, the level of integration, but essentially, we knew that OnePlus and Oppo have there's a lot of similarities between the two. The Find X2 Pro and the OnePlus 8 Pro have a lot of similarities. And there was no question about that. But having them work closely together as opposed to independent when it comes to some of their resources, what do you think it would be Is it a good thing for the market? Is it something that maybe that less competition, or what's your take on that?
I think it's a good thing, but like most of the stuff they shared anyway.
Yeah.
Like you look at the OnePlus 8 Pro from the front next to a X2 Pro from the front, there is no difference.
It's the same. We know
exactly the same
panel,
display.
Same panel. Exactly.
So I don't know if it's going to make much difference to the way the phones are made. It might make much difference to the prices. That's the main concern. Is the Oppo is going to come down? Like the Find X was considerably more expensive than the 8 Pro.
In my opinion,
which one's going to go up? Which one's going to go down? That's
you're wondering.
The main thing.
Are they going to try to level it, or are they just going to keep them in the aspect the way they are? But the question may be for both of you guys: were you surprised? Would you be surprised if you heard that they're working closer with each other?
No. Matter of fact, I'm actually more surprised it took this long for BBK to really, because if you look at it from a pure business perspective, it makes no sense to have these two separate. We're maximizing. I think it's just a natural how it metastasis. It's the natural organic progression of a company. It's just the way OnePlus is now mainstream. It is not a niche, weird, like kind of brand, right? Not like the OnePlus One was with CyanogenMod. It was really an enthusiast device. Now we've clearly seen that OnePlus is now leveraging itself as a Samsung competitor, right? It's trying to be more profitable. It's trying to be more streamlined. It's one UI looking. They've changed their interface. They're trying to make it more accessible because now it's accessible to an American market, and you've got to make a phone that kind of Samsung-esque. The reason why I don't think it matters is because Oppo has no presence in the US. Nobody even knows what Oppo is. So there's not even competing against itself. It makes no sense.
See, that's different here because
in the US, though,
OnePlus
but in
is
Europe,
a big
they're
thing.
not.
Right, exactly.
So for us, that makes perfect sense. In the US, because we don't really have a presence much for Oppo. But when it comes to the European market, both Oppo and OnePlus are present there, as well as the Asian market. So one thing also, Josh jumped in there with Joshua Vergara saying maybe that could also have partially why Carl Pei left. As you know, Carl Pei and Pete Lau were the two biggest faces of OnePlus for years.
Right.
And Carl Pei, if I'm not mistaken, I think is supposed to make an announcement about his new endeavor into a new business that he's left. So he left OnePlus and now he's starting his own company. But I agree. I think the merger could be part of the restructure. We saw Pete Lau taking more of a presence over in Oppo's side as opposed to just being straight on OnePlus. So those are things that I feel like I said, I wasn't surprised. No. I'm glad that we're now beyond that. We can just literally move on because it's more of when OnePlus first came out, the biggest things everybody started to talk about was the fact that they are a sub brand of Oppo, and the biggest thing that we had from that conversation at the time was that we're doing things on our own. There's a lot of similarities between the two hardware from the companies, but at the end of the day, they used what they were able to get from Oppo to make it to where they are now. OnePlus obviously has now its own sub brand. There's the Nord conversation into the thing. And if it means OnePlus and Oppo can give us more or better tech, my hope is that we see more, right? OnePlus 8 Pro and Find X2 Pro, although similar in the front, were a little bit different in the internals and when it came to
quite a bit different materials. The back
materials, also charging speeds. The Find X2 Pro had 65 watts. OnePlus didn't go as high. They included wireless charging on the 8 Pro, where Find X2 Pro doesn't have that. So there are differences in the way they were implementing. And at least for my taste, I felt like the Find X2 Pro camera performance was a little bit better. Although
I
the 8
love
Pro,
the X2 Pro's camera.
The
Such
camera,
a good camera.
It is honestly one of the only devices I carry with me almost all the time. The cameras are crazy, front and on back.
It is such a good camera, and hopefully they share a bit of that as well. Because especially like here, Oppo sell phones. Obviously, they sell all their phones, but OnePlus is a bigger name, so hopefully it brings a bit more attention to Oppo here.
I hope so.
But it also begs the question: what are BBK going to do with Vivo and Realme? Because if they're going to merge those two, what's going to happen to Vivo and Realme? Because obviously they're also a BBK companies. So it's going to be curious to see where they go after they're finished with OnePlus and Oppo. Because obviously they're the bigger brands.
Yeah, to me, the merger is pretty old business move. It's like you had two sets of resources working on the same thing. Why have redundancies in your own organization when it comes to development and R&D? It makes no sense. It's the same thing when Microsoft, when Lumia was bought out, they had redundancies in their Lumia division, right? They had camera techs, and so they essentially got rid of all those people, right? Yeah, Microsoft had their own in-house people. So whenever those companies merge, it's just a profitability thing, right? It's like, why do we have two teams essentially working on the same hardware? It makes no sense. And then where the real question is going to come down to is on the back end, how much is that homogenized across Oppo, OnePlus, Vivo, and Realme? Like, how much homogenization do you get, and how much do they really want to take the time of effort of making differentiations in hardware and software? Really, at some point, I think BBK would just probably make it all one, because you have to manage all those different resources, right? You have different divisions working on different kinds of software that requires different R&D, different lift, different, smoke testing, different development. So how much does BBK really want to be streamlined? I think they're going to keep going with it. If it works with OnePlus, and that's probably why Carl Pei took off. He's like, I want to do my own thing. Yeah, we'll see.
Especially with Vivo, because Vivo's a lot. I think Vivo's the smallest out of all of them that they've got.
They have some interesting designs. Yeah, we've seen some interesting new tech from them. But as far as presence outside, I feel like Vivo, it kind of goes Oppo, OnePlus, Vivo in that kind of order a little bit. Yeah. But then you got Realme. Realme is actually pretty big. That's depending on the market that you're in, the countries you're in. Realme is actually very big.
I picked up a Realme. This is X2 Pro, right?
Oh, we're talking. So we're already on Realme conversation, guys.
It's just because this phone is ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
But it's got an 855 plus 256 gigabytes of RAM, and it's like, why over £1,000? No. Okay. 150. 150. Yes. Okay. Now we're talking. But I wouldn't mind seeing the OnePlus phone with, like, taking some of the ceramic design or some of even the vegan leather design from.
I still want that one. I still want that design that they had with the back of the camera.
The glass.
Yeah, I want that phone. That thing was awesome.
That was 2020 concept OnePlus that never happened. Sharp. That never materialized. It was weird because they showed it to us, they teased us with us. I did a video with it. It just truly felt like such a unique phone. And then of course, right after that, about a couple of months later, they announced that their partnership with McLaren has ended. So we were not getting more McLarens.
Now we've got the 8T concept with the color changing glass on the back.
So that's the stuff I want to see. That new tech, the improvements into what we normally see, because they've done a lot of work on the front end. We've obviously seen, the displays are great. The refresh rate is getting up there. I really hope that the conversation that they had at the Innovation Day last year with the true 10-bit color on the display will happen with the Find X3 Pro, because that's going to be pushing even more, because there's a good chance that if we see that on Oppo, we could see that on OnePlus on the 9 Pro. So those are the things I'm really, really hoping for.
And that's the one thing I miss about LG missing the market, is that they're the ones that are pushing the envelope, right? Crazy form factors, wings, rollables. And I think that somebody's going to have to be that new. They have to fill that void of a company that's willing to push form factors, design changes, because there's got to be something. Because, the glass on glass slab is becoming it's almost stale now. I mean, the LG was willing to push, like, let's try this design, and if it doesn't sell, well, at least we tried. Right, the wing, rollables. Hopefully another OEM takes that up and runs with it, like tinting glass or different form factors or different.
But that wasn't
materials.
The first rollable we saw, was it? Was it TCL had the first one?
Yeah. So there's 3 rollables coming out supposedly this year, right? And all 3 for the most part are very, like, I'm almost say like 95% the same. Yeah, I mean, obviously not the same tech. We're not questioning. We don't really have details into that, but at least from the form factor, it's essentially going to be a phone where it sits in front of you and then it rolls up into a bigger phone to extend the experience. Oppo, TCL, and LG all teased this technology.
Right.
All 3. TCL
that makes me happy, because Oppo will release it in the UK, because technically it's not a dual screen phone, so it should count.
They had it at, I forgot what launch it was. It was at their Innovation Day. During their Innovation Day, they had a working model. There was a whole bunch of videos online showing the actual unit working. So it wasn't just a video, it could have been whatever, but no, this was truly working. TCL Scroll though, that I geeked out on that one. That's like Indiana Jones level kind of.
Yeah, it looked incredible, and I was like, wow, I think that's still a different category than a dual screen Duo, right? That's
absolutely, yeah. No,
but I think as far as the deployment and as far as the usability, I think that would be, to me, more usable than a Fold. As far as if they can make the tech work, and it's I would use that. I would use that before getting a Fold for sure. If I was going to use an uninterrupted screen like that, I think that rollable is legitimately the next step. I think that's
the Folds have the crease, the screen issues, but see the rollables. It's like they're obviously going to be plastic.
Two phone style. I don't know if I could get. Yeah, so you can see the two phone style sandwiched together.
I'll tell you, I used a Fold at the store. Dude, that's nice, man. I can't hate on the Z Fold. That thing is really cool. Like, I was actually at a store playing. I was like, man, this is really cool. I could rock this.
I had the first one. I had played with the first one. The hinge was a bit.
The first one was definitely.
The second one's nice.
I only got to play with it because I would never, spend that much money on a phone like that. But a rollable, I don't know. I don't know. The Folds never caught my attention like that. That's cool, but the rollables have really got me.
I think the rollables are giving the Fold 3 a run for its money, because at this point, Samsung's like, ooh, we should have done that other one that they were talking about.
Because there's no crease, and it's the same thing. It's a normal phone that turns into a bigger screen.
I still think that there may be somebody in the bowels of R&D. I think Samsung's going to have something that's either been working on. And somebody made a comment to me about the, Apple, like what would make you switch to an iOS device? I said, if they came up with a dual screen device, like a Duo that was running iOS, I would use that. And that's when you know
the dual screen phone, it's going to be really
that's when it becomes normal, because then all the people that's when you'll actually have I say, what do I call it? The good housekeeping seal of approval for that device, right? Once Apple does it, that solidifies it as a consumer grade, ready to go device. I mean, that's just what it is.
Blessed. It received the blessing. It could move now. You can proceed.
So, the blessing of Tim Cook.
I think this is going to work, right?
But I think we trust.
Exactly. But I think with the foldable though, I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. You're probably looking at any rollable. It's probably going to be over $2,000, probably like the 2,300, 2,400. It's going to be really pricey. Yeah, especially the first one. Yeah, and that's what's going to make, basically that's the price to entry. Right? The barrier to entry is, why would you spend $2,400 for a maybe Gen 0 or Gen 1 product? It's going to be really hard. But I would love to try one. I can't wait. I'm excited to see.
You jumped in on the Duo straight away, so it's going well.
And here's the thing. It's unfair because if you're a former Windows Phone fan and you're a Microsoft guy waiting for the next Surface device, there was no doubt I was going to try it. And that's what it was. It wasn't like I came in with it eyes closed. I used to follow the Surface phone after Windows Phone kind of cratered, right? It was all done. So this has been a 6-year project that they were coming up. So for me, it's not totally fair because I knew I was getting the Duo. Once Microsoft got into that market, I was getting it no matter what it was. Like, even if it was $2,000, I don't care. Take my money, right? Because I've been so excited about a Surface Windows Phone style kind of thing, right? And it's been 90% awesome, and it's 10% like, I am going to snap this damn thing in half because it's just
software issues. But it's really fixed.
Well, and also the camera too, because then it's a situation where I struggled with the camera. Yeah,
the camera. I don't think it was never designed for that, was it? But I'm assuming the reason the Neo has sort of just flatlined is because of the software issues. Till they've got the Duo sorted, they're not going to release the Neo.
Yeah, and I think the Duo did serve its. So for the sake of what the Duo offers, it truly does work for what they intended for it. It's just that they need to work out some of the kinks. Yeah. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sam, you have the AT&T model, right? So the updates were always
correct.
Yeah, so there's always been also the whole little bit of a delay of when AT&T gets the updates.
Yeah, it's about a 2-week lag. So whenever it got released, the AT&T version. So unfortunately, we didn't get a December update because apparently the build they had for that December one was buggy, and then it was the end of the year, right? So Christmas time, devs weren't going to work. So they're supposed to release the new version, the January update to the Duo. It's supposed to be next week sometime. So I'm assuming I'll probably get it if that pattern holds. I'll probably get it in mid-February, and that's fine. It's not going to be a feature. There's no feature sets, as from what I think Windows Central reported. It's not Android 11, right? There's no major feature changes. It's really just bug fixes and software
Bug
patches and
fixes.
that kind of
Which we want. We want them to
Oh, yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like you had quite a few problems with but it wasn't it wasn't the software. It was more to do with Microsoft Launcher.
I think it's the launcher. I think that's the problem. Is because there's a lot of UI elements that tear, like the screen doesn't go across.
And it didn't turn off when you closed the phone.
And I found out what that was. It's because there's a glitch with your phone. So when it connects to your monitor, sometimes it has to stay on for the your phone feature to work. And I think somewhere in the software it got confused that it was still connected to it. No, the your phone where it actually goes and you can actually cast your screen wirelessly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it was in the software. It didn't know that it was disconnected from that, even though I was. And so it did that mechanism to turn the screen off when you closed it failed. It just didn't want to turn off. So I had to basically factory reset the phone because I tried everything. Luckily, I'm good at that, so it wasn't a big deal. With all the phone switches, right? We've become masters of.
It's just annoying,
setting up a phone. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. And then I still noticed, but I really think that's Microsoft Launcher. I still think that it is opposed to the other Microsoft Launcher that's more for single screen phones. Mm-hmm. There's no icon pack checking. I think that they were still working through the launcher. What's cool is that
using the beta for it?
Yeah, actually, I'm on the beta.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's still. I still run into a lot of glitching, and then I've also run into another thing where if it connects to Android Auto, I get a lot of disconnects. Like if I'm using the phone connected through Android Auto on a phone call, it'll disconnect a lot. If I connect the phone only through wireless connection to my car, works perfectly fine. So I think there's a bug in Android Auto too where it's connected. I get drop calls constantly. I know it's not the phone. So there's still a lot of things you got to overcome. I mean, it's still Gen 0. It's
partially what we need to kind of go through. The hope is essentially that they learn from this and they're able to fix it and they continue it. That's the other thing. My hope is that they don't just release one and then just kind of move on. There's a few other comments that have been coming in the chat. I think Donald was actually commenting saying here, imagine if Google Pixel software and Android Auto and Auto and camera software ran on LG hardware. That just would be the perfect the combination there. Is because LG delivers on the hardware. There's never been a version of their devices that never hit the mark, like just right on the spot when it comes to hardware. It's the software that I felt like always needed more. I'm trying to be nice, but yes, in a certain way, it's missing. There were rumors that they were talking about the V60 getting Android 11 in the near future, so that sounds like a pretty good one. I think they're starting to roll it out I want to say in Korea, mostly the initial release that was coming out. But that's promising to see that the V60 is going to get it, and this quickly because in like timeline, this is actually pretty quick for LG. What else in there? MyTech. Oh, Rolando's in the comments. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey,
Ronaldo. Hello,
Rolando. Not launcher according to. Oh, okay. So here we're talking. Mawash is saying it's the Android. It's Android 10, not the launcher, according to the Me launcher Twitter. Okay, I think that may be an answer to somebody else's statement there. Stable. Oh man, we missed so many conversations. Okay, there's a whole bunch of things going on.
That's what happens when you get. That's what happens when you bring me and my loudmouth on the show. I just derail the whole damn show. I'm sorry, man.
No. It's not that. But yes,
that's how we show off what we do on our show.
But I agree with that comment. I can imagine the software stability and the cleanliness of just an Android, a Google experience on an LG device. That would be awesome because for years
Google's camera software should be the standard. I don't know how all these other people get it. Like there's some companies that get it so wrong on processing, and it's like, but the base is already there for you to build on.
It's exactly what it is. You really need to appreciate. And one thing I realized last year is that Oppo started to work closely with Google on some of their implementations. And we also saw OnePlus is changing their UI. They're trying to become more mainstream. I'm not going to say mainstream in that sense, but essentially like more closely to what one UI is offering. Those are the things we always look at the different sectors. How well does the software live on the hardware that you're getting? Because you're in the software 90% of the time. The hardware is great, but once you go into the day-to-day activities, you're doing your work, you're producing content, you're using it, you're doing whatever you want. It's all about the software. And ColorOS 11 is doing it right. MIUI 12 is getting there. if you're on the MIUI 12 with Android 11 as opposed to Android 10, because there's two different flavors there. But I think Pixel or Google UI on an LG device, it has been something that we've been wanting forever, ever since. I think was it like the G4 or the even the G5. We've always wanted to have an Android One edition version of LG, and I think they released it 1 year. There was 1 year that we saw an LG with a Google UI. But those devices, even Samsung, I think, did that one time, and then they stopped. They moved on. There was no more the stock Android experience.
Can I get it? Can I get an HTC One M8 Google Play Edition? Oh, can I get that? I wish they would go to a Google Play Edition phone. Like that was so great on having the M8 and having those phones having a clean. Oh, it was awesome.
UI. It was absolutely awesome. And I felt like that was a big miss. Like once we lost them.
Oh,
but then but then we kind of realized also where Pixel started to pick up as well, because I think when that line went down, Pixel picked up, and we're getting closer and closer to what Pixel kind of does. I think one of the comments in here,
Google have taken a long time to sort the Pixel line out.
Oh, absolutely. And then Zenitech, sorry.
Or how about X-Techie?
X-Techie, or X-Techie. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know.
The problem with Oppo phones is the prices for their flagships, and I think that's to Matt's point originally. Is it going to be more of a leveling down where Oppo prices kind of come down a little bit? So Oppo's again known as to be more. They have a very, very nice flagship lineup, that the Find X series that we're talking about. At one point, we're innovative. Remember the pop-up camera mechanism that we had on the, I think was it the Find X? Oh man, I forget. It was the original Find X, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And that evolved into the Reno line, the Reno 10X Zoom that came up with the shark fin option.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I love that.
We've had all sorts of different motorized ones, like especially from Oppo. The first Find X was the first of its kind, wasn't it? It was one of those things that everybody wanted, but it wasn't very good. It was wobbly. It would collect dust.
Oh no, absolutely. And you
but
heard,
it was so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was so good. I had one, obviously. I had one.
Do you remember the one that looked a lot like the way the Asus Zenfone 7 and the 6 Pro 6 look? The one with the flap that it wasn't like totally articulating where it's one camera. It was the camera mechanism just literally did a flip. Like when you flip over the camera, the camera module just flips in its face.
Samsung, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 850, I think. But I think they had another phone that did the same thing. Yeah,
that was old. That was the white little tiny thing in the top. I remember that. It just, and then the next time we saw something like that was the Samsung, which is obviously a couple of years ago now.
I remember the Oppo N1. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the Oppo N1.
It was literally the one and done.
It was the one, and I like that. That's a good sign.
Do you see the comments, CK, about that Josh put in there about the an HTC 10 Google Play Edition would have been lit AF. It would have been awesome.
Totally. Google Play Edition devices were very, very popular. And then the weird thing about it is with the community and the modding and the community. So Greg is also in the comments in there, which there are many people that try to do that. They try to bring in a more of a pure Google experience on these devices. So they didn't die, but it's just not mainstream. And I feel like Google should have continued, at least like of every edition device that comes up, a flagship, create a Play Edition so that people have the option of trying it out and seeing, because those are the optimizations that tend to be the biggest concern when you install a ROM. All the special drivers, all the special proprietary things that are part of the operating system on the specific device are not easily ported over without any kind of, because you can't bring over copyrighted things. Open source is one thing, and it can do a lot. There's a lot of open source resources to use. But when you started to have to adapt, that's where Google Play Edition that's why I always felt like
it's such a shame that that's not a thing anymore. Now we get Android One. That's as close as we're ever going to get. To back there.
Yeah, I had an M8 GPE. It was one of my favorite phones. Although I do like Sense-based UI, obviously, but that Google Play Edition was so fun. It was just so nice. I liked it.
And the G7, I think, was the one that they had. The G7
Android one.
Yeah. So
we never got that one.
And I don't think. I don't even think
we ever got that. I think we just got the G7, and then LG went, nah, forget them. That's it. We're done with the UK.
It rains too much in the UK. I'm not.
We got 7, we got 8, 8X, we got G50, we got V50, we got a whole bunch of.
That's why I did the phone trade with Juan, the ROG2, for him to cover on the channel, and I had his V50, and Sam with the LG G8X is because I wanted to use the dual screen and get friendly again with LG phones, because I loved LG, and it was one of those things when they stopped selling to me, it's like, great, now I'm just going to have to get a version from abroad, which is going to be more expensive because I'm going to have to pay taxes and fees and
import you guys,
especially here.
Yeah,
you know,
just to ship stuff, just regular postal is crazy.
I've been dealing with I sent the package over to the UK, and this isn't to do anything with just normal, like however long it took yours, but I think I may have a slightly longer experience that may be beating how long it took to get you the phone. I shipped the package on the 24th of November. It was mislabeled by the post office to go to Canada, not UK. Then we fixed that problem, and now it's still going in the system and still hasn't delivered to the UK. So I today, what, the 23rd? Yeah, one more day, and I'm locking in 2 exact months, and it still didn't get there. So, yeah.
How do you mislabel the UK with Canada?
I don't understand how. Like, I have my receipt. I have the customs form. I called them, and then they're like, "Yeah, it was labeled to go to Canada." And for a while, it went Chicago, Canada, Canada. Like, it was literally going Chicago, Canada, Canada, Chicago. It was back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, at some point, will somebody not notice this thing keeps going? And they fixed the address, but as of the 15th of January, it just said that it left Chicago International, and I don't know where it is. So.
Hopefully it's still on Earth. Hopefully it's still on Earth.
Oh no! The problem is it lands here, and then it takes days for them to scan it in and update the delivery information.
Oh, but no, because I did postal regular post. I don't even think we get tracking once it gets to the UK. So all I get is it left the US.
Oh, so it's gone.
What happens is they're supposed to assign a tracking number, like Royal Mail, or the post is supposed to put their own British tracking number you can use, like when I did with Matt. I was able to check it.
No, they will.
Maybe not. We don't know. It's close.
It's probably like what the LG did. It just took a round trip of the world before
London, Ontario, Canada. That's
it is basically, it's a package going to London, but it actually went to London, Ontario again. All I know, somebody, and I don't know why, but whoever coded it, because of that, the QR code that's on the box, because as you know, all of this stuff is not manually done; it's all automatic. The code on the box is actually coded for Canada. So they supposedly fixed that now after a back and forth and me calling and people trying to chase this package down. They can't find the box, but they recoded it in the system. So it's supposedly going to the UK now, but I've checked with my buddy. He still hasn't had it. Again, as of the 15th, it is MIA, but he'll
just receive a sticker. It's not attached to the parcel anymore. It's just the sticker.
I'm just hoping they would have just sent it back to me, because then I would have just FedExed it over there, because that would have saved me so much time. Because I've sent things.
We don't talk about FedEx, and FedEx they'll charge you £500 just to get it out of customs.
That's another thing. That's another conversation there.
I don't understand.
It is. It's one of those. And Steve, obviously, I love the new thumbnail. By the way, Steve, I didn't recognize it at the beginning, but definitely chilling with some Ray-Bans right there, or some kind of aviators.
That was a good look. That's a good look, Steve. Looking good, man.
But so, question for you guys: who's on the show tomorrow? Can we say
Joshua? Yes,
Joshua. Do we know this guy?
No, we don't know who it is. I will not try and say his second name.
Okay.
Because
it's Quinones, I think
it's Quinones, I think.
It is Quinones. It is. Yeah. Josh Quinones.
I'm not good with words.
Word letters. You sound like me right there. Yes! I am vindicated. It is fine. It's finally he stepped on a word. It's like, I'm not good with these word letter things. Good talk. All right. I'm not letting that go. Ever.
Yeah. So that's we'll go with that. I'm really looking forward to the show tomorrow. Obviously, we've not been on last week, and I wasn't there the week before.
Yeah.
So next week, tomorrow is the first time I'm back, and this is my first actual time reappearing on camera for 3 weeks. So But it is good. And then next week we've got Matthew Moniz.
Oh, dude, that'll be nice as well. And Josh is a really, really, really cool guy.
I'm really looking forward to tomorrow.
He lives about 45 minutes, maybe an hour away from me. So, and he and I met with.
Warn him.
I'll send them a few. I'll be like, hey, dude, before tomorrow, watch a couple of these shows. You'll know exactly what to do.
Right. They're coming into the Hornets, the Lions' den, right? Yeah.
But no, definitely very cool guy. Met him at a Samsung event a couple of years ago where I had an opportunity to go. I was part of a members thing. And then we stayed friends throughout the time. Between him, myself, Greggles, and there's a whole bunch of other YouTubers in the Southern California area. We're somewhat of a small, close knit, and of course,
that's where you all congregate.
Well, no, most of the creators, realistically, that most people know, are not on the West Coast. They're on the East Coast.
Right.
So you get that slightly different shift, and on the West Coast we're a much smaller group but we're not even close to each other. Like we can say we're in LA area, but like Josh is about an hour or so away. Joshua Vergara is a little bit closer, but still that much of a distance. Juan Carlos and I used to be about 25 minutes away or so, and he moved a little bit further away with the new lab. So it depends on where
it's just the size of the USA.
Especially LA County. LA County is enormous. It's
so I'm never far from I'm 25 minutes away from Saf, about 2 hours away from Chris, about an hour and a half away from Roger. So it's like.
But you also have a much better transit system that connects you to two.
Mm-hmm.
But to what Sam is explaining is, LA County is very, very open area, open space, very much different than like East Coast, where things are more aggregated in cities, and your transport was actually also set up to support that type of experience. Here, if you don't have a car, you're pretty much just out of luck. You need a car.
Same thing in St. Louis. There is no real transit system. There's not. I mean, we have a train that goes through downtown, like to the airport and out to the Metro East in Illinois. But as far as like where I'm at, if you don't have a car in St. Louis or Missouri, you're in trouble. There's really no.
You're in trouble.
There's just no way to get to work.
Couldn't imagine if you didn't have a car where you live, you'd never go anywhere.
No, but I will tell you though, if I could like drive to like the local city that's near my house and take a train the halfway through it, I would totally do that. I would use public. I used it in Boston. It was great using the T. It was awesome, man. Just get on the T, take the red line, go to Harvard. Right, it was great, man. I could just take. It was awesome. Yeah, go to Harvard. Yeah. So I did that, and it was pretty cool. So it was fun using the T in Boston. It was great, man. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
In LA, unfortunately we don't have any type, and I don't think there's actually even a plan. There's a few existing metro lines, but they're primarily focused into downtown LA, which most of us don't live in. And then of course Rolando's basically throwing it in there. He's only 5 hours away by plane.
Right? Helicopter.
That's like me saying I'm only 8 hours away.
I was gonna. No, to me, to Sam, you're right. Yeah, you're about 7 to 8 hours away to Sam, and I think about almost 12 hours to me.
I'm 12 hours to you.
Yeah. I'm because I've gone to the UK so many times. I kind of like it's 11 hours roughly going, 10 and a half to 11 hours. It's just there's a lot of things going on. So I'm hoping. I hope you guys have a great time tomorrow with Josh. And I think he goes by Josh, not Joshua. I think Joshua is for Vergara and Josh is. Oh, dude! What?
We just call him. We just call. Oh, okay, there we go. We just call him JV.
JV because he loves him some tea. I love that line. His line is
tea, everybody.
Like the organization of it, the structure is like, "Hi, this is JV," and because I love me some tea, and it just flows perfectly.
Perfect. It just works. It just works nice and smooth. It's really smooth, as opposed to ours.
Nothing we do is smooth.
No, although the
outro lasts about half an hour.
I do like the fact that we're across the podcast, the best podcast you never heard of. That I do like.
When you can say it right. Yeah.
When I can say it right. And then the exit is just a hot, flaming garbage dumpster fire. It's terrible. I haven't figured it out yet. 35 shows and I can't figure it out.
You think one's got a long outro? You got nothing on us.
I was going to say. You guys have always asked, how do you always kind of figure out how to end it around the 2 hour mark and stuff? And I think if you could realize it, it's because of you guys. Everybody in the show, literally in about 15 or so, 20 minutes from now, we're going to start noticing a trend going on in the comments. And that's how I know.
Right. They keep you grounded. There's so this
Well, your
community
roll
is
call.
yeah.
It starts its own. It starts its own. But I do want to say thank you very much for both of you guys for taking time of your day. I realize tomorrow is the show is going to be even more exciting. I can't wait. And is it going to be at the same time? 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. or 3 o'clock
same time.
Eastern.
And
it's the 931.
We can't mention our sponsor here.
It's not sponsoring this channel, but of course,
it's just IR 1989. Don't forget to mention your sponsor.
Yeah. So
wrong show. We're in the wrong place. We shouldn't be here anyway. We weren't invited. We just crashed the party.
Standard time 9 BST, 3 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock PST.
It's GMT. Absolutely. It's GMT until a few months, and then it's BST again.
Okay, whatever. It's GMT.
We're GMT at the minute, but we'll be BST when the clocks change.
I call
it's BS, not confusing at all.
Who knows? But
it's 8 hours away from me. That's all I know.
Yep, same bad time, same bad channel tomorrow, 3 o'clock Central.
Same bad faces.
Yep, same ugly us, but another guest. So that's going to be fun. It's still us with somebody else that's more enjoyable.
I heard what you said, Sam. I know you like Josh more than you like me. I get it. I understand. He started to say a better because I'm like, dang it. That's it. I'm leaving the show now.
TK's leaving his own show.
I'll leave my own show.
Successful incursion.
We're gonna end it. We're gonna end it now. We're gonna go out in flames. But I want to say thank you again for hanging out.
Well, it was our pleasure, TK. This is like I said,
we've taken up enough of your show now. Definitely.
Well, we'll hang out again. I'll be in the comments as usual, lurking in the comments as hopefully Juan Carlos will be. And IR 19. Yeah. So IR is reinforcing. It is GMT now, not BST. Currently. But we'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Again, make sure you catch them across the podcast with Josh Quinones. If you guys are familiar, Josh is always also one of our favorite commenters as well on the channel and a big friend of ours. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Thank you. And stop clicking links that come to you on Twitter. Just stop.
Yeah, well, you
had to click the link today.
Thanks for having us, man.
We appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. So that was a very, very unprepared, I would say. Well, actually, I'm not going to lie. I was definitely a very prepared show. Taking off my headset, obviously, since I don't. There's no more hearing going on in there. And look, some Juan Carlos Bagnell, our favorite YouTuber personality present here, jumping in. Great show, gents. Of course, as usual. We still have about 30 minutes to go. And I kind of wanted to kind of go through and talk a little bit about, kind of recapping. Having Sam and Matt on the show, as usual, as you guys know, they're big fans of the show. We've been hanging out with each other for quite some time. And it really, at its core, it is really around what, some gadget guy, Juan Carlos Bagnell's essence of what his channel and his community is doing. One of the things I appreciated about the fact is that's how I got to meet most of everybody that's hanging out in here, as well as Josh and, everybody here and there. What I really like is the community that's built around it. And if you guys are not already checking it out, make sure you check out Juan Carlos's channel, his Patreon, if you guys would like to check it out. He's a great host. We have our normal show, best of our week that comes up every Thursday. And then, so King Star's jumping in with the real me. Yes, no, absolutely. So Matt's leaving a nice little comment in there. Juan heard all of the nice things that we said about him in the show. And it's true. We're not trying to, we're not embellishing or anything like that. It truly is the essence. The biggest reason why we even have a show on Saturdays this week or on a weekly basis is because Juan kind of like, why are you not doing a live? Why are you not podcasting? Why are you not doing this? Why is there no show for you? And why did you not continue it? And that was the beginning of 2020 for me. And we are in 2021. We're continuing it. But to kind of circle back with everything that's going on, the Dimensity chipsets, the announcements that we saw from Qualcomm, as well as what we saw from mediaTek this week, are big announcements. The 870 for me, I'm hoping, and so the thing about it is with the 870 is it seems like it's a successor. It's a true successor to the 865 Plus, which is what we saw earlier this year, later last year. And for the most part, it's the same architecture. It's same. Even the modem is not integrated into the main SoC, so we are still getting pretty much that slightly more power. I would say slightly more efficient, more powerful processor, and it will carry us in 2021. I'm not sure if that means we're not going to be receiving a 7 series. We're still waiting for that. That's the biggest Since the announcement of the 888, I've been waiting to find out what is the successor to the 765. Is it a 777, a 767, whichever ends up being the device. But Kingstar Safe is asking a lot of questions, same question over and over. I know. So he's very much a big supporter of Realme, and I think I'm with you. Realme is a very big presence. Their devices are actually very nice and very well put together. It's not a competition necessarily between Realme and Redmi. It's more about which choice do you prefer most, the UI elements of what they do. If you're comfortable with one over the other, at the end of the day, a competition between those two brands will always give you a better product because they are competing to get the attention of your attention or anybody else that's considering getting a device in that price point. So I feel like that's where the competition comes in. There's not necessarily one that's better than the other, as they innovate every year and they try to give us a better bang for the buck and better experience there. Davin, so here Davin's jumping in there. It says, do you think there's a chance that Google will sneak in an 870 chip into next year's Pixel? The reality is, as long as this is where the biggest driver for 2020 with the Pixel line, the reason why they went for the 765. We had an event with the Pixel team, the designing team of the Pixel team. As you know, I'm part of the Team Pixel. Hopefully we'll still be that as well. And the biggest thing that they did with the last year's Pixel, with the Pixel 5, the Pixel 4a 5G, the Pixel 4, the 4a, it was truly a price experience set. They were trying to tailor the experience to that price point that they wanted people to enjoy. They realized that the Pixels of years past may have been too expensive. Some people were not buying them because of that. Now, will the 870, even though in a sense it's more closely related to the 865 line of series, be more around what the 7 series price point is? We'll have to see how much that ends up being as far as the price point. Is it likely that Google can use it? Absolutely. Can they use it? Absolutely. It has enough time between now and the release of the Pixel 5 or the Pixel 6 for them to be able to incorporate it. We're talking about roughly about 8 to 9 months if they stay consistent to that timeline. The product developments, things that we have to kind of keep in mind is that generally those take time. So if the announcement of the mid-series hasn't been announced yet, there's a good chance maybe Google's already aware of it. They're working with Qualcomm on it. So I would hope that the 870 is in there, because that would then bring us a little bit more closely related to the performance of what we get with the 888. Now, surprisingly, the clock speed on the 870 is higher than the 888. It's at around 3.2 gigahertz, a maximum possible maximum performance, as opposed to the 3.1 of the 867, the 865 plus. But again, at the end of the day, I feel like true performance for what most users will experience, not much of a big difference between the two. Let me see here. I appreciate it, Kingstar. I appreciate it always. So here, what you're looking at, it says, "Hey TK, I'm looking forward to getting the S20 Ultra." So I'm a little bit I'm a little bit torn in the sense of it's the looking forward and anticipation of what the cool new things are going to be coming out of it. I'm looking forward to see what the experience is, what truly is that experience. I mean, we've seen other videos, we've obviously seen other creators put out content. I think Thursday was the official review day where we saw a lot of performances. But one of the things I'm really excited, or at least really looking forward to, is to see that S20 to S21 experience. The camera performance, for the most part, is the biggest thing for me, especially with what we had with the S20. It wasn't unusable. It's not that the S20 was unusable. I still have my S20, and I'm happy with the fact that I made that purchase last year. There are some compromises done there that I feel like are concerning for me, because last year's model, I went with the 128 gig of internal storage on the S20 Ultra, and I was able to add my SD card with all my media. This year, I don't have that luxury. We have to kind of figure out a way to get that working. So am I excited for it? As with any new device, I'm always excited to see what it has to offer and how does it actually fit into my usage, or my personal usage scenario. So those are the things that I always look forward to. The S21, I think there's going to be a possibility of just seeing how that performs. So we'll have to see. Juan and I are hopefully planning to still do some kind of collaboration around the S21. So hopefully you guys will see some cross-channel platform conversations there. And of course, a lot of things going on with the best of our week, as we typically do. And I'm really happy that the best of our week is picking up on its own. I feel like that conversation there, the team, the people that are in there are always and I mean, really, basically, Juan and I kind of provide a little bit of a point of view that I feel like is entertaining. So I hope you guys enjoy. That's really the end of what I was trying to shoot for. But yeah, no, IR is jumping back in here with even if Google uses the 870, they could always underclock the SoC, which is true. But at that point, I would probably say, would it be better for them to underclock an 8 series, an 8.7 series, like an 8 series processor, as opposed to try to maybe optimize the 7 series? I think the 7 series did quite well for what they needed. Realistically, the 765G is really, I felt like it was the right processor for that experience. It ran great on the 5, it ran great on the 4A 5G, and at the end of the day, gave us that ability of enjoying 5G if you wanted it or if you want to use it, but still gave us some of those new optimizations. We finally have a second sensor that is not a telephoto sensor. That's also an improvement that what we saw before. So it depends on what you're really going for. Because if you look at it realistically, the 855 on the Pixel 4 XL is technically more powerful, but that was also having its own challenges. That was the device that didn't have a fingerprint sensor, where they finally came back to it. So those are the things that we always have to kind of look into when the company starts to listen to what the users expect out of a device, and it actually pays off. Sony's doing it, or did it last year. I'm hoping Sony continues it in this year. Pixel is definitely picking up on those things. And like I said, if the 870 shows up in the new Pixel 6, that would be a very good move for them, as long as they're able to keep their prices, I would say, relatively around the same price that they started or they were able to get to last year. That's going to be the big factor. The price was always the biggest thing. I think the number one thing a lot of people jump on is because it's a device from Google. It's a device that does give you obviously all the updates that you anticipate that you want to get from Google. But when you look at it at the comparison to what some of the other available options on the market, it wasn't the right fit. And Google listened, and the design team gave us the 5 and the series of what we saw. And if you guys saw that the Pixel 4a sold out, it was selling out consistently as a $350 phone from Google that gave us a really good experience when it comes to the cameras. Again, may not have been the flagship or mid-range processors, but it definitely did very well. Okay, hold on. Let's just do this real quick. We're going to put a timeout on this one for a second. Sorry about that. Let me see. Okay. So, Davin's actually, that's another great question. Do you think that Google will ever go with a triple lens setup at some point? I think at this point it would be almost not necessary. I mean, if they're being efficient, typically what we'd see here, there's a lot of, and I'm not trying to bag on specific companies or anything in that sense. I'm trying to be more on the optimistic, hoping side, but also being realistic in the sense of what we do. When we get devices that are featuring triple to quad camera setups, typically the main sensor is going to be the best performer of all of the sensors, right? That's going to be always the bread and butter. That's going to be the main one that most of us will use, because you open up your camera app, that's going to be where it lands. And ultra wide is always going to be very nice, and it definitely is beneficial for any type of use case scenario. And telephoto, I think, if anything, Juan's videos that he's covered also on the digital zoom over optical zoom always kind of gives us the better understanding, is that you can actually do 2 times digital zoom on most of the images and not really lose that much detail, and they're actually very usable. Having Google go to a third sensor, it would have to be making a sense. It would have to be a sensor that makes sense. A telephoto lens or a mono lens or a macro lens, they could use the wide angle lens to perform what the macro is doing it, which is what we kind of see here with the S21. We can also use the telephoto, like I said, from the primary shooter. If it's a decent shooter, it's a decent megapixel shooter. So is it needed for Google? I don't think Google needs to. I think if anything, Google should focus, maybe giving us a dual setup on the front and on the back, or maybe even make the front one be more of a wider angle lens. And I think those are the things that I think would probably benefit us more, because they've done that in the past where they gave us a dual sensor in the front. So those things I think would feel better for us to improve the experience and maybe provide us autofocusing on the front sensor. Those are optimizations that would definitely help in the post-processing that they're known for. That's what Google devices are known for, of course. Ahmad Barzani is in the comment, but I'm not sure what he's saying. Let me see here. Yes, yeah, no, definitely. Appreciate the comment, Greg, as well. Please, if you guys don't mind, if I realize that if sometimes I don't get the question right away, give it some time, and then we'll definitely have to check it out and make sure that we get I'll get the answers for you guys. El Josa jumping here. Okay. X-Tech is saying the Lenovo Vibe Z2 Pro had an amazing software feature. You could switch from the Lenovo skin to the Fox skin, and then reminiscent of the Google Play edition. Oh, okay, okay. That would be very nice. The ability of, I mean, if we think about it realistically, a custom theme on top of any UI that we get right now, if they support theme options, can kind of give us that experience almost instantaneously. I mean, we used to do custom themes on Android, and we used to have to root for that. And then we started getting theme engines being incorporated into the different UI elements that we have. So I always look at those things as always a big beneficial thing. But having it built in by Lenovo out of the box is always going to be appreciated, because at the end of the day, you think of it, those are the things that people appreciate. Is it you choose the interface that you want? You can customize it to the way you want it. But I think it's overall, those are the things. Like theming is always going to be a big factor. And I think there's a big development options into it. As we were talking before, when we had Matt and Sam on the show, I was talking to them about the N1 from Oppo. That device back then was just out there. Yeah, the mechanism, the camera mechanism, everybody jumped on the whole fact that, you know, the whole thing can get damaged, so on, whatever. But we saw some innovation as time went on. So with that kind of going on with everything else on the actual market this week, is that something that you guys are interested in? Is that something that you guys are intrigued by? The new technologies that we're seeing, the Dimensity 1100, the Dimensity 1200. For me, at the end of the day, when I use both of these devices, I realize the features that we're getting here are unique to the chipset that you're getting there, right? So the Redmi is definitely budgeted at the right price with the features that you get there. You have 5G built in here, which is also a very nice option. Here with the Dimensity 1000 Plus, you're really getting an 855 plus type of an experience. There are some compromises done there. But again, those are some of the things that I always see, like the primary shooter is going to be your best camera anyways. So let's I would say work more towards providing a better experience across the different sensors that you choose to put in there, and of course give us that experience. MediaTek is making some improvements. Honor is making some improvements. They're moving in with MediaTek at this point. Hopefully we'll start seeing them coming back with Qualcomm chipset as well as Google Play services. I think that's going to be the biggest driver. Somebody asked me over on I think was it Twitter or Instagram that, you know, will the View40 feature Google Play services? And right now, we have to keep in mind the View40 was announced for the Chinese market. Now, Chinese devices that are intended for China do not have Google Play services because they don't work there. That's part of how the ecosystem is right now in China. So they don't rely on them. They don't use them. Their daily activities are built on existing ecosystem or apps that work in China. So till the View40 becomes international, or even maybe the View40 Pro becomes that, we'll have to see if they stick with MediaTek. And not only that, will they stick, maybe they'll go to the 1200 or the 1100, but that's when we'll start asking is, will Google Play services be available there? My hope is that with the change of ownership, meaning Honor being on its own, that other Honor devices that were released within the recent time are able to be upgraded to Android 11 with Google Play services. So that's my hope. We'll have to see how things kind of move forward on because of the relationship and the architecture that they were using back then. We'll have to see how that kind of goes there. Let me see real quick here. I think, Aditya and Iljosa are kind of going back and forth talking about that. Matt jumped back in there. I think I may get the S21 Ultra in matte black. I can't help but laugh at it, and I have no idea why. Samsung and Oppo leaks embracing the camera hump. I think at the end of the day, we were realizing that I think most camera devices, I mean, even if we really appreciate, we have camera humps everywhere. It's just a question of how pronounced the camera hump. I don't know if I can get this today. So here, right there. So the question is how pronounced the camera hump is and how much can you handle. I think the S20 had a massive one, which I feel like made the phone wobble way too much. But I think if we look at it, I mean, even the Redmi has a camera hump. Most devices now we seem to have accepted the form factor of a camera bump on the back of a device as a standard, because all the companies now are doing, not all, but like a majority of them are still doing it. So the question would be is, what can you do with it? Can you make it better? And does the Ultra really actually meet the expectation? I mean, having two telephoto lenses on there, a 3x and a 10x, is that really that much of a need? Do they have the data to say that basically a lot of users do use telephoto lenses and they needed that focal length of 3 and 10 to be on the Ultra? We'll have to see how those things perform. The performance overall is something that I'm always concerned because I always want to see what they can do with it. So to answer the previous questions, am I excited? With any device that I get into the lab, I always, or into the studio, sorry, Juan has the lab, I have the studio. I keep confusing the two. It's always exciting. That's always going to be an excitement level going around it as well. Let me see here real quick. Or Juan saying, or just make the phone a little bit thicker and give us a headphone jack and a bigger battery. Amen, my brother. Amen. Absolutely. The lack of features on a consistent basis, as that being the standard of saying that this as a premium device, as a premium phone that you're getting less of features. The headphone jack, if nothing else, I think for me has been something that even to this day still being proven by Sony, by LG, that it is something that people appreciate, that people really see that as a feature in a device that we look for, has been for the most part on most products right now on the market is a feature that you see on mid-range devices. Headphone jack, 2020, Redmi Note 9T. We see that more and more often. I mean, the Pixel 4a, the Pixel 4a 5G, both have headphone jacks. Those are things that we really feel like, I don't know why we're putting them in that tier, but not the higher end tier. These are features that should be standard. The removal of the SD card is a very interesting approach that I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with yet. Because for me, I am losing most of my storage that I normally would carry over with an SD card. Now, I've watched a few other videos where they've talked about the fact that, yeah, maybe we can use a thumb drive, we can do different things. But at the end of the day, that's something that's extra that you have to carry with you. So you're having to adapt into a device to make that device do what it used to do before. And that's what I feel like where at least right now on paper, because I don't have the device, how I feel like about the device with the S21 going from an S20. Is the S21 really an upgrade for the S20? I don't think it is. I think if anything, most people upgrading, unless the factor of, obviously market value and so on of your previous device. But the reality is when you purchase a device, you're investing in a device that's going to serve you for quite some time. You want it to serve you quite well. Somebody that picked up the S20 from last year shouldn't necessarily be looking at the S21. They may be looking at the Note 21 if that comes out, or even the S22. Because by then, that's when we start seeing iterative upgrades. Will the SD card come back? I don't think. I think this is pretty much the end of the SD card when it comes to Samsung at that price point. I don't think they're removing SD cards from all of their lineup, by the way. I think it's purely on the S line and maybe even on the Note line. It's a purely marketing situation. We saw it with the Note, and I think the S20 is doing the exact same thing. But they're not giving us the outlet on the S21 Ultra, which is what they did with the Note 21 Ultra. The only reason why I had my wife's device upgraded to the Note 20 Ultra was because of that SD card. That, for me as a user, makes perfect sense. That MST removal, which was very much of a why kind of, and not only that, because they removed it out of one side and they left it, when I mean side, I mean in the markets. In the US, under the Qualcomm chipset, we don't have MST, or there will not be MST support on the S21 Ultra or any of the S21 devices. But the Exynos models in different markets are still going to be carrying MST. And MST, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically Samsung's way of using MagStripe compatibility with their devices to allow them to be used with terminals or point of sale terminals that don't have tap to pay, like Google Pay or Samsung Pay or anything like that, that use NFC over MST. The removal of it in the US, I feel like is a big, I feel like maybe it's a year or so ahead of when it should have done, because I can attest to the fact that even though I live in the US and I use it, my grocery store, a few of my stores in my area do not support tap to pay payment services. They're still using standard terminals, and they haven't upgraded to it. And MST was the only way for me to pay. Now, if I want to use it with something else, obviously I can try using something else. But at the end of the day, MST, they removed it out of their watches a while back, and now they're removing it out of their smartphones. It's a definite change that I hope it doesn't stay. But Greg is jumping in with that, of course. Very true, Juan. Very true, as well as Aljosa jumping in as well. Let me see what else we have here. Davin is jumping in. I didn't want to pay more for less convenience. That's what it is. We are paying. So the headlines, as one kind of predicted, where people were saying, well, it's cheaper, it's less than what the S20 came out of. You have to understand what you're getting. You have to understand, you have to read into what you're getting realistically. Less for more. When it comes to the processor, that wasn't something that Samsung did. That was a Qualcomm processor. What they're doing is adapting it to their system. when we start looking at the more for less, so you maybe the starting price may be less, but you're getting a different experience. You're getting somewhat of a, I would say, a little bit more tailored experience. You no longer have the QHD resolution displays that we have come to expect. My mom's using the S9 Plus, and that has a QHD resolution display. The S10 had it, the S20 had it. The S21 now is a 1080p resolution in 2021. The move forward to me seems like a move back. Now, some arguments will be, well, dude, you need to remember that last year the S20 line of devices gave you 1080p 120 hertz. You're still getting that, yes, but you also had the ability of going QHD 60 hertz, which you can't do that anymore. So if you're a proponent, if you love having high refresh rate, if you're a big high refresh rate type of an experience, I feel like the S20 may be hitting it at the right spot. You're getting that variable refresh rate. Although not as variable as what you get with the Ultra, because that's when we start seeing some of the performance differences. You're still going to be getting a different experience there, starting at $799, which essentially really it's $800. So it's basically an $800, $1,000, and a $1,200 model. S21, S21 Plus, and S21 Ultra. We'll have to see. I'm not going to get my devices till probably end of next week. Maybe start covering them. Maybe hopefully by next Saturday we'll have something. If it ends up happening the way I've done it in the past, we'll end up having it live. Which is generally what always ends up happening for us. And with that being said, okay, so we'll cover one more here from Juan. It's so frustrating because MST makes more sense here. The lag of a lot of the lag of a lot of grandfather being not okay. I think what we're trying to say essentially is NFC is not picked up as much as people think in the US as it has. Major retailers, probably, yes, but the general stores that we go to, like even mom and pop stores, are not going to invest in upgrading their terminals just to support these services when things are still working. So I can tell you right now that my grocery store here, and it's not exactly a small chain, it's a big chain in the US. They know every time somebody comes up to try to pay with a phone, they're like, is that a Samsung? I'm like, yes, then it works. And if you say Apple or whatever, it doesn't work at all. So MST, I feel like although I believe that we are moving to the point where we not need it as much, we are not there. Whatever data points that Samsung was referencing that people use or don't use it, and which format do they use, may have been based on certain areas where they were maybe more densely populated with areas that have terminals that are higher. But again, it's a feature that I felt like, I mean, how much space were they able to save? That's the question for me. What was it that they were able to save, other than money, obviously, since they were able to add that in there, that they didn't get it because they ended up shrinking the size of the S21 Ultra by about an inch. So it's a 6.8 as opposed to a 6.9. And then they gave us less. So those are the things we have to kind of keep in mind. But it is that time of the day, as usual. I appreciate everybody keeping me on schedule. Let me just close a couple of things here. I'm going to move the window. We are back. And we're going to share screen. And let me go ahead and start it off with Matt, our buddy, our friend, can we cancel here? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken here. Okay, so we're going to start off with Matt, and we're going to share the screen. And here we are. Boom, boom. And we're going to start at 4, 3, 2. Wow. Timed it correctly. I want to say thank you very much, of course, to Matt Tyler, of course, hanging out and being a guest on the show, as well as Sam earlier this afternoon. Well, I guess it is afternoon now. Aditya Anil, as usual, thank you very much. TKception, TKR Bay, Davin Davis, always a big friend. Jump in and always. No, I think he was just timing it. TKception time, yes. Greg as well. For development and of course flashing. I'm still trying to get my Nexus 6 to try to find out where it is. Davin, of course, as usual. IR 1980, thank you very much for everybody for hanging out with us as well. I tried making it smooth. Chemi's in there as well. Right there, hanging out with us as usual, an old friend of the channel as well. And as usual, I always appreciate you guys hanging out and kicking it with us and just having fun. I didn't mean to be as so here's Aditya calling me out. So TK, man, you fudged that up. Breathe. We will wait for you to finish your commentary. The hashtags are just a reminder. Oh no, I'm with you. The reason why I want to kind of jump into it, I didn't realize time flew. having Matt and Sam kind of threw me off a little bit on the timing, because I'm typically like, by a certain point I kind of know what time it is, but I think the hashtags were mostly just kind of keeping us on track, and it also helps me kind of start closing out how things are going. But I always appreciate you guys keeping me on point as well. So here, Rakshita, hopefully I'm saying it correctly, Rakshita Fulari. It says, I want to buy the Samsung Galaxy S21. I think at the end of the day, as long as the device makes sense to what you're looking for, whichever piece of tech that you're looking for at the end of the day, be it a Samsung, be it an Apple, a Realme, an Oppo, OnePlus, all the brands are trying to do is to provide you different options. And of course, obviously making a case for themselves. So each brand wants you to buy their product. That's a given there. But at the end of the day, from a consumer standpoint, and what I hope and what Juan and I always hope to try to do is to help you make the decision that fits you best. We're providing the resources and the data for you to make the best decision that works for you. Samsung, the S21 may be the right device for you, what you need. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you're comfortable with what it offers, then that's going to work for you. But know that there are some options on the market that could provide you a much better experience. And whichever one you decide to go with is something that you're going to have to be comfortable with. And I think as long as you are, then there's no problem. If that's the device that you're going with, I think the S21 will be definitely providing you what you expect. Samsung has built a consistent ecosystem story that they've been telling. The S21 has a tailored conversation, a tailored experience that built in so that they can bring the $799 price point. And I think that's something to keep in mind. What you're getting there is really fitting into that experience. I hope so. I hope so. Honestly, I missed out on a trip to India a couple of years ago during a mediaTek summit that they were doing, and I hope that maybe that comes up. It comes up very, very soon. Margaret Hutton saying is, where do you doing? I'm still going into the middle of something. Please leave. Okay. I'm not sure what you meant by that one, but we'll go ahead and skip that one at that one. Let me see here. So yeah, Matt, always nice. I'm late. Oh man, no, always better. Always the show is always nice, especially like I said, Matt and Sam have been great supporters of the show. And again, tomorrow they're going to have Josh Quinones in there, a great buddy of mine, and of course they're going to have tons of fun. I think it's going to be great. But with that being said, I do want to say that this week was very big for processors. This week was a very big announcement day, and also some new venture days. So the Honor move into mediaTek, I think, was a big move. I never thought a day would happen where an Honor device would be powered by a mediaTek processor. Now I realize that in the past they used to use Qualcomm in certain markets that they released their devices. I'm not forgetting that part. But after for so long, we were basically Kirin. Now we're finally seeing something else. And I feel like the 1000 Plus was a great move for them, and I can't wait to see more. So that being said, the 870 is going to be very promising. I'm hoping the price for that will make it more competitive for other companies to use them and still provide us a great experience, even in the mid-range or maybe mid to upper tier range of SoC performance, because it really is very much a flagship experience. It's really the successor of the 865 Plus. The other announcements of the Dimensity 1100 and 1200, we need to wait a little bit more to see what's coming out. I think if the 800 and the 1000 are any indication, the future for MediaTek and the processing power that they're able to bring in is definitely on the very high positive. Last year with the Velvet One, enjoyed it so much that he literally spoke so much about it that it really made it into a non-starter as a conversation. And that's where you want to get to, where the processor is no longer the main center point of the conversation. It's what does the device serve? What does it do? What does the software experience provide to us, and what it gets us to? And as well as, again, of course, I want to say thank you to Greg, thank you to Davin, Matt, Tyler, Aditya, as usual. Rolando, thank you very much for hanging out with us in the chat. Rakishta, yeah, Rakshita. Sorry, Rakshita. I do apologize for that one. Mao, Scott, as always, Donald, as always. I'm always going to see in the preview, Matt and Sam. always a lot of fun to see Donald hanging out with us in the show as well. And everybody else that took some time, as well as Juan Carlos Bagnell, and last but not least, Joshua Vergara, for hanging out with us and kicking it with us on this Saturday, the 23rd of January, 2021. Be nice, be safe. Again, I say this every time, but if you can, get in touch with somebody you haven't talked to for some time, lighten their day, and believe it or not, you will smile once you make that connection again. So say hi to somebody, say hi to friends, stay safe, stay well. Check out tomorrow the show. Ahmed, ahlan wa ahlan. And then, of course, Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiedersehen. Hey, see, look, we're flipping over on the German side here. And of course, make sure to check out Cross the Podcast tomorrow, and of course, Juan Carlos Bagnell's show on Monday with the SGGQA show. I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care, and I hope you're doing well.